Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Leadership Lessons with Cheri. I'm excited for this week's episode as we continue to talk about little nuggets of information to help you be the best leader that you can be. I've really been focused on going on my own journey from good to great. I think I've had a lot of leadership experiences in the past, and I've done some really amazing things. But as a lifelong learner and as a human, I know that there's always room for growth. And if you think back to the book, Jim Collins' Good to Great, if you've read that, I really do feel like there were times that I was a level 5 leader, and most times I probably would hit that mark of the level 4. So hopefully, as I share information with all of you every week, I can continue to grow in my leadership as you are growing in yours as well. So let's all continue to come together and make a difference for all of our people out there as we go from good to great. Having said that, before we get started with this week's episode, I did want to just do a little plug for my monthly membership. The Leadership Impact Society is open. I have a monthly membership where I bring leaders together in a few different realms. We have a Facebook group for community. We have a piece of material for content that I share each month based on the theme for that month. We also have group coaching where not only do I get an opportunity to talk about thoughts and my experiences, but I get to hear from other leaders in the group on their experiences based on that monthly theme. And we do a book study every month. And I am loving that membership, and I would love to be able to get that out into the hands of more people. Right now, the membership is currently running at $55 a month, or you can buy a year subscription for $600. It brings the cost down a little bit so that it's a little more affordable each month. However, it also gives you an opportunity to stay in for the entire year and get all of the great information renewing every year on that anniversary date. So if you're somebody that is looking for a solid community of leaders that will help you continue to grow, definitely check out the Leadership Impact Society. The link will be in the show notes, and I cannot wait to see all of your beautiful faces on board with us right there in that membership. All right, so let's get on with this week's content. This week, I wanted to talk to y'all about when leaders start to micromanage. I've been on this theme this week. Yesterday on the show, Strong Inside and Out, I talked about why we feel sometimes we need control. And I've been hearing from a lot of people over the last couple of weeks about two big areas. And one of those big areas is how do leaders control their emotions and not panic when things start to go sideways? Which led me to the conversation of the second thing, and that was micromanaging. I was talking to somebody, and they were sharing with me that they were very upset. They didn't know how to handle it. It was one of my clients, and she wanted my advice on what she should do next. What should be her next steps? Basically, the situation was she had been hired new to this organization and has been working for about 7 months. And she's not new to the field. So it was just a transition from one site to a different site. And during this time that she's been employed, she has proven herself quite a bit as a leader. She's looking to continue to climb the ladder and fulfill roles, moving up to maybe one day being the top level CEO. But things are still fairly new for her. She's new-ish to the type of role a couple of years in. And when you change from one organization to another, of course, we're always going to have these learning curves. So she was telling me that the situation was she was asked to take on a project. It was a big project. When she was asked She could definitely tell that the leader was panicking, feeling overwhelmed and stressed because the previous person taking on that role had not been fulfilling the role well, and it was affecting the bottom line. And so this leader came to her and asked her if she could step in, which she did. She said, I was very happy to step in and do what I could. She said, I felt pretty confident that I could do what needed to be done. However, I needed to ask some questions just so I had a very clear understanding. Now, hearing this, y'all probably have been in situations like this before, especially as you've been growing and learning and moving up in your positions. And this person in particular asked a few questions, feeling comfortable enough with the leader to ask. And these questions made the leader panic more, to where the leader started to say, are you sure you can do this? I'm beginning to question putting you in this position, which then caused my client to feel as if maybe she couldn't do it. She started to doubt herself. But then she realized, no, I know I can do this. And then she started to feel some way about that leader. And it was anger. She was feeling anger. She was feeling frustration. And unfortunately, probably said some things that she probably shouldn't have said. But in the process of it, the leader then started to become very micromanaging, checking in every couple hours. Where are you on this? Did you get this done yet? I haven't seen this move yet. And it's only been a week since all of this conversation actually started. Now, what's the lesson in this? We all have to learn how to balance managing and leadership. I've said this several times in writing, in content, even here on the podcast. As leaders, we also need to be able to manage. When I think about managing, I think about managing timelines, managing data, managing specifics about people. But if you're in the leader role, you also have to know how to lead. And that's where I feel we build relationships, we empower people, we support people, we build the brand of your organization, the climate, the culture. Some people are hired to be managers because they do great with data and checklists and just kind of going through those types of things. But managers are not always great leaders. And a lot of times that misconception can happen where a manager is asked to lead without having the proper training, the proper skill set, even the proper mindset, and can fail. And then it makes the leader look bad, and the cycle just goes on and on. But if we really regard ourselves as leaders, we do have to be able to manage. But there's a difference between managing and micromanaging. I remember a time when I was married. I truly was the leader of our crew. The crew had 3 people, me, my ex-husband, and our daughter. Our daughter was very social, very, very smart, did well in school, was involved in a lot of activities. She was very talented in the arts. So she was in choir and theater and all of those things. She was a swimmer at one point, and so she was involved in all of that. She was living her best life. Schoolwork was easy for her. We didn't ever have to worry about that. I am a high achiever, fairly successful in the work I do. Again, a level 4 or level 5 leader, depending upon the situation. And I was continually growing and trying to push myself in my career. And at one point had aspirations that maybe I thought I would be a superintendent. I didn't end up pursuing that, but that's a whole nother story for another day. However, that was my path. That's where I thought I was going to end up going after I started moving up in school leadership. And then there was my ex-husband, and he just didn't have that quality about him. He ended up in a managerial role now in his career, but he's just not the leader. And that's why I can clearly say I understand the difference between a leader and a manager. But because he didn't have this initiative to go out and do these big things, and because he basically wanted to play rather than necessarily work and take care of our family, and I know he would be the first one to admit it, so I'm not saying anything he wouldn't agree with. I got into the role of being a micromanager at home. I was taking on everything. I was paying the bills. I was earning the money. I was managing our daughter's schedule. I was serving at her school in different capacities when she left the elementary and went to middle school and high school. I was her booster club president for theater. I was part of the booster club for choir. I worked on the weekends when we had the swim meets, doing the timing and the coaching of the kids and things like that. And I was her cheerleading coach one year. I was the academic coach for the different things she wanted to do at the schools. I served in all of these roles, and I was getting to a place of feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, stressed. And my response was I started to micromanage. And I started to do it because I didn't trust that my ex-husband would get the job done. And I knew we had experiences in the past that he hadn't gotten the job done. So I was starting to feel insecure about his willingness and his capabilities to get things done. For example, I would get to a place where I'd say, okay, you're not working right now. Can you please do X, Y, and Z this week so that I don't have to do that on the weekend? Every day I would come home and I wouldn't see any progress on X, Y, and Z. And so I would start to nag and I would start to micromanage and I would start to say, you haven't done this yet. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? I was feeling overwhelmed, stressed, insecure, wasn't trusting, and I was getting to a place where I was not being a good leader for our family. I can see that that happens within organizations very, very easily. Especially ladies, I'm talking to you right now as women in particular. We have a hard time delegating tasks out to others. I've been in that place. We don't delegate because we feel like, can we trust people to get it done? Are we going to be constantly micromanaging to make sure they get it done the way we want it to be done in the timeline we want it to be done? And that just then perpetuates the stress and overwhelm. So we don't do it. And then we just take on all of these things, which then in turn turns us into a person that starts to become burnt out, more stressed, more overwhelmed, starting to have more feelings of animosity to our teams, having less trust in them, which then keeps us micromanaging. And then I've seen other situations where leaders feel very insecure about their own skill set. And in order to make sure that insecurity is not seen or known or shared with others, they feel they have to have control over everything. And in response to that, begin to micromanage people. Well, if I can keep my handle on these people and make them do the things maybe I can't do as well, they'll never know I can't do them because it's now back on them and they need to get it done. If I have control over this piece by micromanaging others, then I won't feel unworthy of having my job because I'm actually doing something that in our minds we think is moving the organization forward. Whether it really is or not, we believe that it is. Great leaders control those feelings. Great leaders delegate and empower their teams. Great leaders are authentic enough to be able to say, I know my strengths. These are my areas of vulnerability. And great leaders surround themselves with people who can complement their strengths to help the organization move forward. Great leaders do not micromanage. So this week, I'm going to challenge you. Are you a great leader when it comes to this topic? Are you somebody who can delegate and empower others, who can admit their areas of vulnerability, who hires the people to help make them look better, while also building their capacity and trusting that they are on your team for the right reason and that they're going to help you move that organization forward? If you feel like you're lacking in any of these areas, this is definitely the time. We're at middle of January. We've got a whole year ahead of us to make big things happen within our organization. Are we making our people crazy, or are we making our people excited to come to work every day and excited to work for you? If you feel like you are struggling in any of these areas, this is your time. Take one, and start making yourself a plan. How do I overcome this? There's lots of supports out there. One podcast I listened to this week, it was Layla Hermosi. She always has such insightful things for being a young leader. She's got some really good thoughts and ideas. Definitely check that podcast out for sure. Continue to listen here and get into the membership if that's something you want some support in. But the first place to start is being honest with yourself. Figure out if you are lacking in any of these areas so that you can start to build a plan to move you from good to great. Because that's what we're here for. And that's my goal with leadership lessons each week. So hopefully this is a way to help you gain that little piece of information that will help you be the best leader you can be. And most importantly, learning how to lead with your head, think with your head, and lead with your heart. All right. I hope you have a great week ahead. Reach out if you have any thoughts about this week's episode. If you need support, if you just want to get on a quick call, definitely here to do that with you. And most importantly, go out there and make big things happen, because we are not put on this world, on this earth, to be small. We're here to make a big impact in the world. Have a great week, and I'll see y'all next week right back here on Leadership Lessons with Cheri.